What's up guys, welcome back to a brand new episode of Bonsai-U. This time around we're talking everything grafting. All right, so I know for a lot of people out there in the bonsai community, grafting seems like one of those things that's out of reach. It seems very difficult to do, and maybe you've even tried it yourself with very little success. Well, my goal in this episode of Bonsai-U is to provide you with some tools and ideas for having more success with your grafting and also different types of grafting as well, so you can apply it to different species. Now, before we get started on the actual techniques of grafting, I want to talk about a few subjects to get us started here. So first and foremost, let's talk about the types of grafting that we see in bonsai culture. Now, if you look in general horticulture across the planet, you're going to find dozens and dozens of types of grafting. In bonsai specifically though, we typically use three types of grafts. So first and foremost, we use something called a SCION graft or a side veneer graft. This is very common with pines and junipers. Essentially how this works is we take basically what amounts to a cutting off of a tree that has a good foliage type that we like, and then we insert that into a tree that has, say, a good trunk characteristic that we like. This is also done in production of deciduous material and fruiting trees in general horticulture, but in bonsai we typically use this for changing the foliage type on a plant. The second type of grafting that you're going to come across in bonsai horticulture is, of course, the thread graft. Now, the thread graft we typically just use for deciduous and broadleaf material. And again, what this involves is just drilling a hole through a branch or through a trunk where you desire new foliage or a new branch to be, and then whipping a branch around, inserting it through that hole that graft then takes, and then you have a new branch in that location. This is thread grafting. Quite simple. It's not something we're going to cover in this particular episode, but we will be covering it in a future episode of Bonsai-U. The third type of grafting that you're going to see quite a lot of is an approach graft. This is somewhat similar to the thread graft. However, we don't actually drill a hole through the trunk or through the branch. We simply whip some foliage around or take a separate whip and attach it on the side of a branch, underneath the branch, on top of a branch, or on the side of a trunk to get us new foliage in a new location or to create a new branch on a certain side of a tree. Now, there are some other specialty types of grafts that we do use in bonsai culture sometimes, but those are outside of the purview of this particular tutorial. So we're going to set those aside for right now. So this brings us to the second topic I want to cover in this section of the tutorial, and that is the reasons for grafting in bonsai culture. So as I mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons that we do grafting is to change the foliage type on a tree. So say for example, you've got a beautiful juniper that has excellent movement in the trunk, beautiful shari, all those characteristics are there, but the foliage is just garbage. It flops, it's leggy, it's coarse, never balls up, and you never get a nice padded look out of it no matter how much you wire it and how much you prune it. Well, we can correct for that by taking foliage from another tree that has those desirable characteristics. Perhaps we do this through SCION grafting or through approach grafting, but we take that foliage and we put it on the tree with the good trunk characteristics. This, of course, is going to provide you the best of both worlds, and this is something that we're actually going to be covering in this episode of Bonsai-U. The second reason that you might want to graft on a tree is if you've got a tree that's very long and leggy with just foliage out on the outer extremity of the canopy but nothing on the interior. So essentially you've got a hollow shell and you need to push that growth back. Grafting is a great way to do that. You can graft closer to the trunk via any of the methods that we've talked about already in this tutorial and produce essentially back buds on the plant that then you can cut back to over time. This will allow you to maintain the overall size of a tree essentially in perpetuity. Now, the third reason that you might want to graft in bonsai culture is to change the position of a branch or the root system on a tree. So again, for example, say you've got a beautiful Japanese maple, but all of the branches are emanating from the top. All the movement is at the base, but you've got no branches down in that location. Well, we can approach graft or thread graft down lower on the tree to create a new branch in that location. Or for example, say you've got a juniper that's very long, maybe it's a collected tree, maybe it's 5 feet long. It could be too large to be a bonsai, for example. But all of the movement is out at the outer, say, 1 foot or 30 centimeters at the very end of that 5-foot stretch. Say you want to get rid of that first 4-foot stretch of the tree. Well, we can always graft new roots via approach grafting up in that area where all of the movement is. Once those grafts take, we can then remove that bottom 4-foot section of the tree, and then you're left with a beautiful, tight, compact, 1-foot tall bonsai. So there are other reasons why we might want to graft in bonsai as well, but those are the three main reasons that I wanted to discuss with you here.